Welcome to the Customer Success Playbook Podcast, where we bring you the latest insights and leaders in the customer success space. My name is Trebon. Kevin, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Looking forward to today's show.
Yeah, I will say, Kev, I'm a little, we've been doing the podcast here for maybe close to a year. I don't typically get nervous when we do these, but I'm a little nervous today. We have a great guest, so I should maybe before I jump into it, Kev, we have Donna Weber joining us. Donna is the, renowned author of Onboarding Matters, How Successful Companies Transform New Customers into Loyal Champions, and a renowned expert in customer onboarding and engagement. Donna's work has set the standard for how organizations can effectively integrate new customers, ensuring they become successful and satisfied advocates. Her strategies and frameworks have been adopted by a wide range of companies looking to elevate their customer experience from the very first interaction. Kev, I know you read the book. I've read the book. I have it up here in front of me. So you want to talk about the topic? I think it's probably, we probably let the horse out of the bag here a little bit with the topic. You want to give a brief overview of the topic here? It's not going to be baseball. It's not going to be a baseball preview. I'll tell you that.
I'm sorry?
It's not going to be a baseball preview. So I'll give you that, right?
Yeah, no, really excited. I mean, and we're tagging on to last month's topic, which is onboarding, right? And so we're going to explore the wealth of knowledge Donna brings to the table regarding customer onboarding. We'll discuss the key principles and strategies from her book, as well as her hands-on experience consulting with various organizations. The conversations will cover the essential elements of a successful onboarding program, the common pitfalls to avoid, and how to measure the impact of these initiatives on our customers, loyalty, and company growth. Donna, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Oh, it's such a pleasure to be here. Thanks for including me. And surprise, surprise, we're going to talk about onboarding today.
Exactly.
It's funny. So Roman got the book physically and read it. I actually got your Audible version, so I got to listen to you read me the book.
Great.
I
recorded that. It was during the the pandemic days, and I was recording it in my bedroom closet because that had the best soundproofing and acoustics. And then it was also during fire season in California, so it was very smoky out.
Well, as I was saying, Dawn, again, we've done the podcast for a while. I am a huge fan of the book. I absolutely love the book. I'll just say it right here. Like I told Kevin, as soon as I started, I got probably halfway in. I'm like, Kevin, you got to get the book. You got to get the book. I, sent it to my team. I'm like, we got to get the book. So I absolutely love it. So let's start with, and I'm trying not to sound like, I'm like, I have a little note. Don't sound like a big fanboy, here we go. But I am. It is what it is. So let's start, Donna, with kind of the inspiration for the book. I know you were in onboarding, but then how did the book come about? What made you make that leap?
Well, let's see. I mean, first of all, I can talk about why I focused on onboarding, and then I'll talk about the book. When I was starting in customer success was more reactive. It was more about the renewal. And it was so obvious to me that the renewal is really established in the first 90 days, not the last 90 days. So it was so obvious to me, like, why isn't anyone talking about this? This is when we need to really engage customers and build relationships and deliver value. So there was a point that I was like, wait, that's what I need to talk about. And so then I was talking about it and writing about it. And I write articles regularly, which you can find on my website. And then there was a point where I felt like I had kind of enough content and felt like I had enough to say and that there was a need in the market. And so I wrote the book.
Yeah.
And I'm a very practical person. So my goal was to provide a book that, is practical, that has practical tools and guidance so that you could take action. And people have told me it's the most practical business book they've ever read.
That's actually what Roman said to me when he was like, you got to get this book and read it. He's like, it's got so much in it that you can just use.
Yeah.
I'm a very practical person. I always wear sensible shoes. I'm always, that's one of my core values, being practical.
Yeah, I told Kev, I said, you got to get your own, because typically I would lend it out, but I'm not lending it out. Like I'm already back. I'm highlighting stuff, and so you got to go get your own copy.
So Roman, I'm curious what most resonated for you.
I love the framework. So I love the way it was broke down, right? It was like I'm very like a to-do list kind of person, just, so like the orchestrated onboard framework, again, that was very practical. And then each chapter, as we were going into it, not only did it explain kind of the reason why that's a stage, but it gave, here's what you do next to kind of get that off the ground. And there were so many for me, Donna, like wow moments. Like, one thing it was like the part about having a kickoff, but then also like the part before the kickoff where you're actually kind of meeting, like, with the project manager, like kind of one-on-one before you actually even get to the kickoff stage. And honestly, I was like, oh, I put my head down. I'm like, because we're smushing it together, right? I'm like, why are we doing that? And then so I do want to dig into that, but then even onto the packages and marketing onboarding and the value of onboarding, there were so many items where I'm like, okay, we're not doing this. We need to be doing this. So highlight it and come back to it. But that's why I loved it so much, because I love a book where I can take it and use it in my organization. And there were so many items that I was like, oh, okay, this is like the light went off. I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. Why aren't we doing that? And we need to be doing that. So let's add it to our list.
Yeah, one of my colleagues said that they reduced at their company onboarding from 80 days to under 30 days as a result of leveraging the onboarding framework.
Wow. Don, I actually had a question. One of the things that you said that really did resonate with me, that something we pushed at our company, was bringing the CSM into the sales process early on. And then you talk about the success plan and building out the success plan, which I thought was great. It's something like that adds a ton of value. But the question I think I have is, when you go on so if you bring the CSM and you go through the process of building the success plan, then there's the handoff. And I'm trying to understand what's the distinction. If the CSM's already in the process, help build the success plan, what are you trying to achieve at that handoff standpoint?
Sure. So, well, first of all, I think in the book, I kind of talk about the success plan during Embark. And I think the reality is most people don't do the success plan then. It's more, they might start it. But it's what I find is is the handoff is when you're really using the success plan. And so let me just talk about those first three stages. We have the Embark, we have the handoff, and we have the kickoff. And so the Embark stage is very high level, and it's really just helping the customer understand what they need to do for the journey ahead. So you might help them understand that there's APIs, or they're going to need to integrate with certain systems. And that means they need to start with that. Like I work with companies where maybe there's an integration that needs to take place, and it's going to take 3 weeks just to kind of request it. Well, I think that's great to start telling the customer, if you want to get value more quickly, we don't want to like sell the product and then we're all sitting around for 3 weeks waiting for this integration to even start. Then we start telling customer, you're going to need this payment gateway, or you're going to need to set up this integration. You're going to need to request this information from all the health care institutions you work with. I worked with a company that, it take weeks just to request information from healthcare systems, insurance systems. So it's good to help them see the journey ahead. Also, it's really helpful and important for the customers to know what's expected of them. So, for example, when I work with companies, I tell them during the binder journey, you're going to need to have a dedicated person internally to work with on this project. It's not like I just do a dance and it's all and it's all magically different. Like, you're going to have to show up. I like to use the analogy of going to a restaurant versus going to a gym. At a restaurant, you sit there, you pick your option, and you wait, and you have the product is delivered to you, and then they clean up after you. If you go to a gym, and I went to the gym this morning. If you go to a gym, you might sign up for the fanciest gym. You might pay the premium membership, but if you don't show up and sweat, and work your muscles, and you might have some pain involved, then you're not going to see any results. And I think it's our duty to move from this restaurant mentality to the gym mentality in when we work with customers. Like, hey, Roman, hey, Kevin, like, this is what's going to be expected of you. Here's the journey ahead. Now, during Embark, you're not going to go into like all these technical details and scare them off, but you want to help them understand there's a partnership that's needed, especially for a long implementation, especially for a high touch kind of engagement.
Yeah. I love that analogy. And I actually think taking it a step further in the gym, depending on the type of gym you go to, of course, if you've got a coach in the gym, you're kind of sitting in that role of acting as the coach through the onboarding process.
And it may be great to meet the coach when I'm trying to decide, what package I'm going to buy.
Yeah.
And so during the Embark, I like to keep it real high level. Here's the big picture, some visual milestones, just to show, hey, we've figured this out. And companies have told me that when companies do that, they say, oh, this company's got their stuff together, I want to work with them. So it actually lets them know, hey, we have best practices. We've done this before. We're not figuring this out for the first time. And then the handoff stage, that's really to get alignment for the internal teams and the customer teams. And I want to drill in on the customer teams because especially, let's say at a bit business to business, complex software, oftentimes there'll be a sponsor, a stakeholder who's purchased the product, or maybe procurement's even purchased the product. And then the project teams have no idea what's coming at them. They have no idea why. There's been all these conversations focus on benefits and value and what to expect between the sales rep and the buyer. And then the post-sales teams have no idea. They don't get any of that. They just get a kickoff meeting and a bunch of stuff assigned to them. So I like to slow it down where we have a handoff meeting. I'm working with a company in the UK. We call it handover in UK. Where we have it, but it's really about building alignment. And that's a great time for the buyer to tell their customer, their project teams, what was purchased and why from their perspective, to get their internal teams on board. And that's a great time to go over the success plan, because then those internal teams can start to say, well, what, that timeline isn't realistic because Roman's going to be on paternity leave for the next month. Or, we can expedite that because we can really dedicate Kevin to this right now. I've worked with companies where we go over the success plan, and I've had all those conversations with the buyer, but it's really important for the project teams to have a say and to go say, well, you know what, I know you define those objectives, but actually we need to include this, or we need to refine that. And when you take the time to slow down and do this alignment, things are going to move much more swiftly downstream. And when I haven't done that personally, I've had stuff bite me and really put the project at risk. But when we take the time to do that, we document it. We also determine how we're going to escalate issues. So, we say, look, Kevin gives me his mobile number. And the minute Roman's causing trouble, I call Kevin and alert him, and we deal with it. We don't wait for it to get worse. We don't hope it goes away. We deal with stuff immediately.
You don't know how often that happens where we got it.
Exactly.
It's like
for Roman's behavior.
She's in our prep meetings apparently now too. So no, but that was one of those internal handoff, Donna, not the internal handoff, the client handoff, right? I think a lot of, at least folks I talk to, they do the internal handoff sales to the onboarding team, right? But then they go right to kickoff. And I like that slowing down to almost go faster. And then that expectations to the client up front, right? Like, who needs to be involved? What do we need? What are timelines? Because too often I see the project starts and you get some early momentum, and then, like you said, you wait. You need to involve people that didn't know they needed to be involved, and then it just comes to almost like a screeching halt, and then you lose some of that, that excitement. I bought software. I'm excited to get it in and use it and see the results, and then you hit that lull, and then it's like, at least for me, buyer's remorse sets in. It's like, what am I doing here? Did I make the right decision? And I'm like, oh no, what's happening?
And also, again, this is more for a high touch perspective, but also, when we just jump to the kickoff, then it's really all about the technology and the implementation. And I really want it to be about the relationship and the partnership. And that's where that handoff with a client comes in.
So, Donna, I was at dinner last week with a bunch of salespeople from different organizations, right? I was probably like the lone operations person at this dinner. And they're all saying, oh, Roman, we're competing with this client or this other competitor, and they're baking in onboarding fees. We can't compete with this. They can't. And I'm like, I don't know. Like I'm reading this book, and I'm like, I don't know. So can you kind of talk about, I know you touch on in the book, but like this idea of customers paying for the professional services and why that's important. And then for some of these sales team members that think it's, hey, I can't overcome this challenge. How do they do it?
Yeah, sales teams are so nervous about adding fees. Look, I got to tell you, when I work with companies that charge for onboarding, customers show up, they stay on track, they follow the timeline. So that's the reality. It's not about the fee, it's about the value you're delivering. So if you're just going to charge and then have a check-in calls and go, hey, Kevin, how's it going? People aren't going to pay for that. But if you can really show that you're delivering value, that's what's critical. I told you I went to the gym this morning. I live in a small town, 7,500 people. When I moved here a year and a half ago, a new gym was just opening. And it's right next door to the old gym. And the old gym has been around since the 80s, and it's kind of smelly, and all the equipment's a bit old. And it's like, I think I could probably go there. I can't remember how it's, like, I think 50, I remember $59 a month. They don't have any classes. It's all a bunch of equipment. Right next door is the new gym, all brand spanking new equipment, great classes. I did a yoga sculpt this morning, and top of the line cycling studio, blah, blah. Anyway, I paid triple that $59 to work out at the gym next door. So one, you have to know your audience. Two, you got to deliver value. And I feel like I get the value because I like to take classes. And I want new stuff, and they have aromatherapy, humidifiers, and I could have a cup of tea if I want, so it all depends on, you got to know your audience. If you're all about the low cost option, then, you better deliver a lower touch. If you're delivering more of a high touch bespoke experience, you better charge for it, because otherwise you're a very expensive cost center, and your company is very sensitive to cost right now. And your job is at risk.
Yeah.
Okay, real quick. I know one thing you and I talked about on this about paying for onboarding, Donna, was, again, obviously the no charge. I guess that is an option. There's like the time and material, and then there's like a fixed cost. I'm curious if there's a time and material fixed. I'm assuming maybe time and material is the way you go. Do you kind of just have a fixed cost? Do you have a thought on it, or is it really dependent?
I have a lot of thoughts. What I like to do is create a subscription, customer success services subscription, or success services. And rather than nickel and diming customers for support and training and onboarding, just, wrap it all in, give them what they need. Don't go, well, gosh, we hope customers buy this PS package, because we know when they use it, they, they're more sticky, they're more loyal. No, include it. Like, stop hoping sales reps sell it. Stop hoping customers buy it. Wrap it all in there. I call it a happy meal. Give them what they need. And if it's a subscription, the sales reps will love it, because now it's recurring revenue and they get higher comp on it. I've created subscription packages in the past. When it's a one-off, sales reps aren't interested. They discount it away. When it's recurring revenue, they love it. They eat it up. And then you deliver ongoing value. So in that first year, it might be some initial onboarding and maybe implementation and initial training. But in years 2 and beyond, you might have health checks, audits. You might do re-onboarding. You might do training for new users. You might help, continually, especially when your company has like a land and expand approach.
Yeah.
Well, I talked with a company where they have a land and expand approach. That's their growth strategy. But they do the initial onboarding, and then that's okay, bye customers, see ya. Well, how are they going to make sure new teams, new regions, new new geos are leveraging their new divisions, are leveraging their product and getting value? They're just hoping. So then if you wrap that all in, then you're going to continue your customers on a value journey beyond onboarding.
And so I come out of organizations that kind of had professional services as one thing, and then support services as another. A lot of them came out of, we're transitioning from traditional, software packages to more SaaS implementation packages. It was never hard to sell the idea of time and materials with professional services, right? From a positioning standpoint, it's interesting what I'm hearing. And I've sold customer success services as a package, as an ongoing subscription package. I just haven't packaged it together with onboarding as well. So that's an interesting idea.
And what I did is I meet with the finance team, kind of understand what the cost is. So there is some time and materials in there. And, let's say you're doing training and, there's a whole kind of science and art around pricing or anything. And what will people pay? I've done things where you have different tiers, depending on what they get. Let's say low touch customers, they get all the self-paced stuff, and then higher touch will pay more. I've done where customers pay a percentage. So that way they're paying a percentage on what they're already paying.
Right.
So that larger customers are going to pay more. For example, I worked with a company where they were doing their onboarding was taking like 12 weeks, and they were doing all this high touch, bespoke, special stuff. And I'm like, you guys got to charge for this. You're losing tons of money. And so then they created like a, like a standard and a premium package. But, it's a whole conversation. It's not something you just, determine overnight. You got to look at, well, what is it costing us? What will customers pay? You got to meet with finance, kind of understand what margins are expected. There's a lot to pricing. In the book, I talk about, creating a go-to-market plan. But then when you charge for customer-facing stuff, you also need to determine the discounting strategy. Because if you charge for it and then all the sales reps do is discount it or give it away, then you're back at square one. So, the thing is, like, I'm taking right now I'm taking a meditation class online. I've paid for it. And guess what? I'm taking all the classes. If it's free, I don't pay for it. I don't follow through, right? I follow through. I paid for it. And I'm meditating twice a day now. So I'm taking action, and that's people are more accountable when they pay. That's human nature.
Yeah,
no, that makes sense.
Yeah, I found the same thing for the gym for myself. I mean, and I had to pay enough for the gym to go.
And like I pay. This is the most I've ever paid for a gym, and my kind of agreement with myself is I go at least twice a week.
Yeah.
When I'm in town, but okay, get my butt there twice a week.
Yeah, I like your gym, Donna. My gym is just like a 24-hour place where I work out. But again, that took me from my house to there, which I still pay for.
Aromatherapy.
Right? No.
During the pandemic, I was working out on Zoom. I had a trainer on Zoom, and then there was a point where, like, it was great because I could go in between meetings and have a workout. But like, I'm like, I got to do something in person like this. I'm done with Zoom.
Yeah, you're probably got enough of those all day. You don't need another workout to add to your Zoom schedule. Donna, for companies that have, they everything is high touch, right? So, maybe they're growing, or maybe that's how it's always been. And it doesn't matter if they have a client that's, 20 seats or 20 people or 1,000, right? It's the same experience. Where should they start if they want to start moving to like more of a lower touch approach? where everything today is like holding hands, but it's the same experience if you're small revenue or gigantic revenue.
Well, it's good to do. What I do is I map out the journey, the current state, and kind of really understand if everyone is doing their own separate thing, then get everyone together and understand what everyone's doing, and then start looking for areas where people are repeating the same things over and over. I like to talk about a hybrid touch, because even in a high touch journey, you can still reduce the engagement. You might have a welcome email that's automated that goes out from the CRM the moment the deal is closed won with resources. One company I worked with in the UK, they had a very high touch journey. And a lot of what the customer success managers were doing was training the customers on the product. It's a big data. They're training them on extract, transform, and load, ETL. Oh, here's our platform. And these were really smart. They call them technical success managers at this company. I'm like, you guys are too smart to be doing all this training over and over and over again. You should be focused on what's unique for each account. So then we built in self-paced training for the customers to take. So then they have some understanding of ETL and the platform. So then when they're engaged with the TSMs, they're really getting in, diving deep and doing what's unique rather than the same for everyone. And then one, that means this TSMs can handle more accounts during onboarding. Two, it means they're delivering more value. And three, it means they're going to be more engaged. And the TSMs, the internal teams, they're going to be more engaged and challenged rather than doing the same things over and over and over.
Donna, in the book, you talk about you're talking in enablement, you talk about the content jungle. And I think you talk about really driving and building kind of enablement journeys. I assume that comes out of this evaluation process as well, and then looking at what types of goals you want to be able to your customers to achieve, or your customers want to achieve with your product, to go down that route. Any thoughts or anything you can kind of add to that?
Yeah, sure. So what often happens, companies think about delivering information. Oh, we got our knowledge articles, we got our videos, we got, webinars, and there's a lot of information. And one, just because there's information out there doesn't mean anyone's benefiting from it. Two, companies often don't monitor and maintain that information. So there's just more and more information out there. And then and we're in the everyone's an author era. So it's not like that everyone's throwing out content, but it doesn't mean it's current. It doesn't mean it's accurate. So I've worked with companies where the customers, I interviewed their customers, and the customers told me, well, we'd like to figure stuff out on our own, but everything we look up, either there's nothing there or there's 5 different things and we don't know which is the current one. So then they resort to calling support and going, hey, support, can you help me with this? Which is expensive for the company. So you need somebody to really create a curated journey. And I like to focus on transformation, not information, where you deliver the right content to the right user at the right time. So, you might have content, marketing teams are great at this during the buyer journey, delivering the right content to the buyer at the right time. And then post-sales, you don't just have the company, you've got maybe business users, you got admins, you've got analysts, who knows, you got data scientists. And so are you delivering what they need to do their job with your product, and not just a bunch of overview videos that give you a little navigation around the product? I'm working with a company right now. Oh yeah, we got training videos. No, they're marketing videos. They're a quick tour of the product. It's not telling anyone how to do anything. If is there a certain point where, customers, I worked with a company in Australia where they have a product for amusement parks. And they know when customers use the digital waivers, so where you sign your life away, rather than doing that on paper, but they do it on, like let's say an iPad or a screen. They know when customers use the digital waivers, the loyalty increases dramatically. Great. We'll create a journey where you're delivering the right content to make sure the users know how to deploy those waivers like, don't hope they figure that out. Like, make it a proactive like journey where they're getting the content they need to like make that a no-brainer.
Yeah. Donna, when you work with a ton of companies, so when you're working with them and you're looking at kind of across the orchestrated onboarding journey, is there certain areas where you see companies typically run into issues or they're struggling in a certain part of the journey, or is it they don't have even an orchestrated onboarding at all? And it's where do you see companies, like when you're coming in, when you're first assessing them, kind of where the challenges are?
Well, one, they're all over. They have nothing, or they have something. The most often when companies bring me in is when they're doing well, they're a high growth company, but they haven't scaled. So that's why I usually come in, is to help them scale. So they often tell me, we're doing great, customers love us, but and then so what happens is they're getting some funding, some investments, or they've got oftentimes will be acquired by a private equity company, right, firm. And so now they're getting funding, which gets invested into the sales and marketing engine. And the post-sales customer success and onboarding teams have been doing great. But now what gets them there will not get them to the next level, because they'll have a tsunami of new customers coming at them. And like what they're doing no longer works. So they need to find out how to scale it, create consistent, repeatable, proactive processes. Oftentimes they're very reactive. They're just running around kind of doing whatever customers want and need. So we need to create this prescriptive journey, leverage technology, create, a one-to-many approach, look at components where we can scale, make sure every customer-facing person is doing the same thing. So that's often where I come in. Just last week, I had a conversation with several onboarding and implementation leaders, and a common point they talked about was that, great, they got customers to like onboarding or to first value, and then there's this cliff, they fall off. They've been very fixated on first value, but then what happens? They kind of just, it maybe first value has become an important metric internally, and everyone's like focused on that, and then they don't pay attention to what happens after that.
Yeah.
So that's the, in general, thanks to, maturing customer success and onboarding teams, more companies do have onboarding. But where they really get stuck is doing all this hand-holding with no regard to what it's costing their companies. So I can't tell you how many times I've talked with companies where, let's say, they're charging $10,000 for their product a year, and then they're spending 3 months to implement the product and hours upon hours of high touch engagement. And I'm like, you just lost, you just spent that $10,000 in like the first 2 months of onboarding, and you're losing your company money, and they're not paying attention to that. That is a big, great to have onboarding, great. They're getting customers to deployment, but at what cost? Like you can't do this without regard to costs. Then, we won't have a team next year.
That's right.
Yeah. So, as you look at the onboarding process, and I actually put something up on LinkedIn thinking about this a little bit after. I'm currently going through an AI course with MIT, looking at business strategy. And I was thinking about the enablement process and how you're talking about the content journals. That seems like such a perfect opportunity to start using AI to build specific customer enablement journeys. Looking at all the content that your company's produced, you can actually really leverage it as an opportunity. But that is just a concept that happened, that coincided with the learning I'm doing in class as I was also listening to your book. Any thoughts that you've had based off of your experience and where you see companies going at this point?
Yeah, well, I'd love to learn more about that course. That sounds fascinating. Yeah, absolutely. The thing is, customer-facing teams have been very manual, and I was meeting with a vendor a couple of weeks ago who's leveraging AI to really do some right now they're really just doing some analysis of the customer journey, and their takeaway is that customer success is so manual. So we get all these people, and then they're running around being gophers and doing the same things over and over and over for customers. And like my hope is like we can leverage these people to be so much more, So can we leverage AI? Well, one, people want customers want things personalized. They don't want things generic. They don't want just a bunch of information. So how can we leverage AI to deliver more and more personalized content? Now they know Donna. Ideally they would know what my outcomes are, not just, I don't want to just use a product. I'm using it to do something. And so, like I go to the gym, I might have all sorts of different goals. I'm a member, but am I training for a marathon? Am I trying to get in shape after an injury? Am I trying just to, rehab from surgery? Things I might have goals with, and I'm going to have a very different journey there, leveraging that gym analogy again. So really personalizing it, and then uplifting all these customer-facing people to be much more strategic, much more focused on what's unique for customers rather than like the same thing over and over and over. I think that will really elevate our whole industry to be these strategic advisors delivering transformation, not, just dumping a bunch of information. I was being onboarded to a product last week that I'm checking out. And the guy just started doing this like product walkthrough, and I'm just, after a while, I'm like, I can just do that myself. Like, it's just such a waste of my time. Like, I'm like, well, why don't I go through this first? And then I'll let you know what I want to do and what I don't understand. But just to waste of his time, he's a smart guy to go over this product tour with me. How many times a week is he doing that? They're a small company, they're a startup. That makes sense. That might make sense to them. But I can go walk through that product myself and discover it. Or create a video. Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And I just cut him off. I'm like, look, like I'll figure that out myself. I'll reach out what I need. So we need to really look at how we're delivering value, not just like information.
Yeah. And the employee experience, like you said, that guy who's doing that all day, I mean, I'm sure he's not like, I can't wait to do 5 more of these today. That's so exciting. I mean, free him up or her up to go do value-added work.
I have an orchestrated onboarding masterclass where I help people create an optimized onboarding plan. And the first time I delivered it, I was like, well, I'm the onboarding expert. So I had a bunch of slides and I talked at them the whole time. And then I was like, okay, that's not what they're here for. Like, read the book. The goal is I bring people together so they can all learn together, talk to each other. And the more I get out of the way, the less I talk, the more they love the class. So now we have breakouts, we have conversations. Everyone shares what they're working on and they get feedback from everyone. But the less it's about me, the more they love the class.
Yeah. Like you say, we can all read the book before we go. I don't need to go and hear you kind of reiterate the book. It's that value of asking questions and learning from others and applying it. That sounds awesome. So Donna, we're getting to the point of the podcast that we're going to turn the page a little bit. We have 5 rapid fire questions, non-onboarding. Okay. So there's no prep here. So first question, are you a night owl or an early bird?
Early bird.
Early bird. What do you do when you're not helping companies onboard? What do you do to kind of unwind and relax?
Well, I love reading. So I usually have about 5 books going at a time, nonfiction and fiction. And then I love being outdoors. So hiking, biking, kayaking.
Awesome. Well, that's a good segue into our next question. Do you have a book recommendation? Maybe a nonfiction, a fiction? You read a lot.
So many books right now. Well, let's see. One of my favorite books that I do recommend is called A More Beautiful Question by Warren Berger. And it's all about asking questions and listening. And I think as people in general and as customer success professionals, we could all be better at that. That's really helped me in my business to realize that it's not about providing the answers. It's about asking the right questions.
I love it. All right. Where can people find more information, Donna, about you, right? Where can they go? I know the book's out there. Go to Amazon or go to your website, donnaweber.com. You want to tell us where our audience who's listening, where can they find more of your material, more of your information, the masterclass you referenced, et cetera? Yeah,
on my website, donnaweber.com, DonnaWeber, Weber is like the grill, and 1B. And then you can check out, I got a bunch of resources. I have a success plan template you can download. I've got infographics, videos, articles, webinars, podcasts. It's all there.
Awesome. Well, Donna, thank you so much for joining us. This has been unbelievably terrific. Like Kevin said, we literally have the person who wrote the book on onboarding coming on. I'm like, yeah, you're right. She literally wrote the book.
Thanks for including me. It's a real pleasure to talk with you both.
Thanks.
Well, thanks so much. And Kevin, I think this lived up to expectations in my book. So I hope everyone enjoyed it. Check us out at customersuccessplaybook.ai. You can find the Customer Success Playbook on LinkedIn. You can find myself at Roman Trebon on LinkedIn, at Kevin Metzger on LinkedIn. Reach out. Let us know what other guests you'd like to have us have on the show, what other topics you'd like us to discuss. And Kevin?
Keep on playing.
Thanks, everyone.